How many more forests have died because I wasn't here? Because I don't know what I'm doing.
Gran says life is a cycle. And out of death comes new life. This will be a forest again. That's what you should see. Seeds for the future, not past mistakes.
Come along with us on an idle ride through the latest science fiction and fantasy shows, movies, and video games. Welcome to Idle Ride. I'm Marcy, your host, here with my co-host and chosen brother, Paul.
I'm here to roast this show.
And we're here to talk about the 5th episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Netflix series called Spirited Away. And this is really going to be another really tangled web of episodes from the animation. So get ready, folks. This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
We'll, again, break it up into Team Avatar versus Zuko, Iroh, and Azula, because the Zuko storylines are pretty short. So we'll get the meat of the episode out of the way with Aang's team.
Also save the best for last, right?
Yeah, I feel like that's what we're going to have to be doing in all of these episodes. It opens up on Team Avatar racing through the forest, being attacked by firebenders, and we get a kind of scene where everybody gets to showcase a few skills. Aang does one of the animation moves that I always liked, which is using a big breath to blow people away. And I think, doesn't Sokka use his boomerang in this?
Yeah, I think like once. He's not super impressive here.
Yeah. And then Katara shows off some of her waterbending skills, where she's now made a block of ice and is slicing off pieces of the ice to shoot at the firebenders and knocks the whole party of firebenders down with her waterbending.
Yeah, so I had a minor complaint about that, because it's cool that she was copying Boomy's moves and made like the discs happen. And then when she shatters the pillar of ice, it looks like a bunch of guys in full armor get completely knocked over by like 5 ice balls each.
I think they are doing a really poor job of showing with the water that it's powerful, because it just looks like water is splashing on them. I just wanted to talk about that because earthbending looks the coolest, I think, because the animators know what rocks do, and rocks have weight. And so they know how the physics of rocks work. And so that's why earthbending looks cool. And firebending is kind of the same, like fire blows, fire, whooshes around. And so they have that to work with. But because water is kind of invisible almost, or clear, and air is clear, they're struggling with figuring out how to make it look like what it is, but also look like it can do powerful things.
Which is, I guess, why they would be always imitating earthbender moves, like the ice pillar being Boomy's move, and just lifting up rocks and throwing them with air.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, it could have been an incredibly interesting and powerful thing if she took that whole puddle, made it into a big tidal wave looking thing, and then crash it into the firebenders. But it's fine. We see that they're finally fighting the firebenders, finally get to see that. But it's, again, a really quick scene, and they run up to a cliff. Oh no, what are they going to do? The firebenders have cornered them, and they jump off onto Appa. And at least we get kind of a single note Appa scene here where he does rescue them from the firebenders.
Appa, the getaway car, as we complain about every time.
Yeah, you don't even get to see his face. I was so disappointed. Like, they jump on him, and the next scene is they're just talking in his little saddle, and you never get to see Appa's face.
I thought this scene was entirely pointless up until the part where they do the talking, and then they reveal basically two things that matter. One, that Katara's gotten really good at waterbending, and that she's pretty much reached the limits of what she can do with just training available to her. Still absolutely no signs that Aang has even touched water. I wrote in my notes that he's avoided water like a cat.
Well, and the fact that the other team members don't mention anything about that is really weird to me.
Bizarre. Yeah.
He's praising her for how amazing her waterbending is, but Sokka and Katara don't say, so I think it's about time that you start learning waterbending too. There's only so much time before we get to the Northern Water Tribe. Let's do this together.
Maybe you should reach some level of competence. Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing great at waterbending, Katara. Yeah, and you still fucking suck because you haven't even tried it yet.
And then the only other important thing is that they're talking about, we're being chased by firebenders more than normal. And they have their own in-character reasonable reason why they're close to the Fire Nation's borders on the Earth Kingdom. So, like, they would expect more patrols. That's not why. Like, we know they're being chased by two different Fire Nation groups, but, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of that scene. Like, we wasted 3 minutes on bad dialogue just to get that.
And also what's funny is somehow, I know we're going to do Zuko later, but Zuko doesn't realize that other Fire Nation people are trying to find Aang yet. And obviously everybody in the whole Earth Kingdom is aware of it because they're being chased constantly.
Yep.
Again, we see the Aang actor just really struggling with acting in these scenes. I don't know. Have you noticed this with his mouth? I know we shouldn't nitpick so bad, but when he's talking, he really just moves his mouth a lot. Like when he's saying words, I'm like, you're talking normally. You're talking with your friends. But again, it's because they're making him so sad all the time. All he has is these lines about being angsty and angry. And so, of course, he's a little kid. That's not his normal life, is to feel that way.
Yeah. I'm going to see it forever now with the mouth moving. But I had not noticed it before.
Aang looks over the edge of Appa's saddle and sees scorched earth. And this was a pretty powerful scene in the animation where Aang notices that the Firebending Nation isn't really only attacking villages, but is destroying everything. Forests, dams, the water. The Fire Nation is destroying nature. So
what did you think about this shot in the non-cartoon version?
Again, you've gone on this journey with the kids in the animation. And in this, all you saw was just moments ago, 2 minutes of them being chased by the Fire Nation. So you don't feel the weight of it as much as you did in the animation.
Maybe it's just me, but on top of that, I think that they did a really bad job with that shot. Because at first, I didn't even see the devastation, quote unquote. I just saw a mountain with trees and some fog. Then I realized, like, they're talking about Fire Nation, so that's not fog, it's smoke. But, like, it's just a tiny little trail through the woods. Like, the woods looks fine.
I wonder if I superimposed my imagination of the scorch from the cartoon onto it. So it's like, yeah, it looks good. It's obviously the scorch scene, so I had already, like, put that part of it over the live action. So you're thinking, okay, obviously this is going to be an episode that's mostly about the spirit world because the episode it comes from is called The Spirit World. And really, you get just so many episodes that they've pulled from the animation in this single episode. And I'm going to say this every time I talk about it, 100% sure the writers were like, Google, what episodes does Aang go into the spirit world? Okay, gonna pick one from 3rd season, 2nd season, the end of the 1st season, and put them all in this episode.
Yep.
It's frustrating that they really don't understand how to meld the story in a way that you don't need everything about the spirit world and just Spirited Away episode. You could put it in other episodes.
Yeah, let the story unfold, guys.
Aang sees the scorched earth. he lands Appa and kind of starts doing his angsty thing of, oh my gosh, this is all my fault. The Fire Nation is killing everything.
I need to be an ecologist.
Yeah, it just seems so fakey almost, but.
Yeah, he threw in the line there, how many more forests have died, because I'm not around. It's like, this forest isn't even dead. It's got a tiny trail cut through it.
But I think there's a good Katara scene where she comes down and has a moment with Aang, which is a classic kind of Katara and Aang moment where she's calming him down and kind of walking him through this. Again, the writers really are good at just hammering things in because she takes this acorn and she's like, this is the seeds for the future, not past mistakes. And then later, when we see Azula, she also makes a reference to seeds. So they're just really heavy-handed with the dialogue in these episodes.
They are. And a part of me wonders how Katara, who presumably has lived her entire life on ice floes, knows what an acorn is.
Yeah, why the fuck is Gran talking about seeds? She's never seen one.
But it's still very heartwarming, and it's a good moment. And there are so few good moments with Katara and Aang that I'm willing to give that a pass.
Good. That's such a good point. She lives on a freaking iceberg. And we split the party again. Sokka's not there for this moment. He's wandered off like Sokka's wont to do, probably looking for meat somewhere. And then he sees a little girl with a little doll. And I'm pretty sure that this is the little girl from the Jet episode. So I don't know if you remember, but in the Jet episode, there's a little girl that has a doll, and Sokka is the one that learns that Jet's a terrorist in that actual animation episode. And he really wants to protect the villagers that Jet's gonna kill by breaking the dam down because he's met this little girl who has this little doll. And then the very end of that episode, he picks up the little girl's doll because it was in the water and he thinks that she's dead, but in fact, Aang was able to get all the people out of the village, and he sees a little girl and gives her the doll. So They're bringing these random little moments from episodes here. Why did you need to have this little girl even in this scene? Why couldn't they have just found the village? I don't understand.
So thank you for clarifying that, because I was confused at the point of this, and I haven't seen the next part, and this does seem to be a two-parter, but from my watching of this episode, it's like, oh, Sokka sees a creepy girl holding a doll in the woods and isn't scared. That's a little bit out of character. And then, yeah, there's like no payoff to meeting this kid at all at the end of the episode.
Honestly, it's been long enough that I haven't watched episode 7 to know if there's payoff for the doll, but I'm guessing that there is. Either way, it's a character, a small side character from another episode that they brought in here and just shown that relationship between Sokka and this little girl in an episode that it doesn't need to be here.
At all. Yep.
At all.
We can cut these episodes down to 20 minutes.
Yeah, seriously. And there's definitely episodes that I feel like you do not need to make any reference to that I would not care about, which they kind of do later. There's like people in the background talking about different episodes that they're obviously not going to do, which they pick the right ones, like the Canyon episode, different ones that are not really that key to the plot of Avatar: The Last Airbender that you could cut out quite a bit of. But then they add all this frivolous stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah. So just for my edification, the Canyon episode is the one where Aang learns to lie to get people to get along with each other. The one with the two factions that hate each other. The
two factions that hate each other, and they're trying to get across the canyon, and he can't make them get along. And so then they split up. That one of the groups is going one way, and the other group goes the other way.
That was one of my favorite throwaway episodes.
Yeah, it was really funny because it was like these disgusting... The humor in Avatar: The Last Airbender was really my jam because it was like these really gross, like burly, stinky, hairy people in one village, and then there's the really prim and proper, like, gotta comb my hair, hoity-toity.
It was elves and dwarves.
Other village.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And they weren't getting along. Anyway, yeah, they could have thrown that episode totally out the window, which they've done, and it would have been fine. They find the village because of the little girl, because Aang and Katara see Sokka, and then they're all chasing this poor little girl. Can you imagine? And she's like, oh my God, I'm being chased by bad people.
Probably Fire Nation. I don't know. I'm a kid.
And they get to the village, and the villagers obviously seem quite frightened. And the head villager tells them that the land is in turmoil. None of their crops will grow. They're all starving to death, and they've angered some sort of spirit.
So I know that they called this episode Spirited Away, but really they're talking about the plot to Princess Mononoke right now.
It's true, they are. That's a good comparison movie, but Princess Mononoke, of course, was much better.
Of course.
And also because the episode is supposed to be about just the forest spirit, but they bring every single spirit from the spirit world into this episode. So by the end of the episode, you're like, oh, there's a forest spirit?
Yeah.
Like, that's why you went in there. And the forest spirit isn't even part of it.
Yeah, and you forget the motivation was to save these villagers that were going out looking for food. So you're like, oh yeah, Aang's going to go save his friends again. It's like, there's plot within plot within plot just stacked into each other.
Yeah. So at the village, Aang feels that there's something different about this area, that there's some sort of weak veil between this place and the spirit world. And as they're walking along, we get a lot of great Sokka being afraid of spirit stuff. Sokka really is the shining star in the few moments that we get of him in this episode.
Yeah.
Aang explains the spirit world, but I'm again confused as to sometimes the Aang in the Netflix series knows stuff about the spirit world, and sometimes he's completely ignorant of the spirit world. Like right now, he's the one explaining it, but then later when he's talking to Gyatso, he's like, I don't know anything.
Yeah. Also, in this one scene, he's giving this like grade school lecture, which that's how I was treating it. Is he's just repeating what Gyatso told him as if he was the teacher. And then at the end of this scene, Sokka's like, "How is this possible?" And Aang just basically repeats everything he said in the grade school thing, but like with a quizzical look on his face.
Again, it's like, stop telling us this shit and just show us it.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure I'm not a screenwriter, but I'm sure there's a way you can make Aang feel something to be true visually without him saying, oh, I feel it's true.
Yeah, all they did was like shake the camera and suddenly and like kind of do this weird zoom in where everything else fades away around him. And then he's like, I feel that the spirit world is here. I mean, I don't know. And they stumble upon the panda spirit circle of pandas.
The teddy bear picnic is what I wrote.
He's like, obviously this must be the forest spirit. And we're like, okay, I guess you just stumbled upon it. Again, an easy plot device that they could have just been on Appa looking around. Hey, look, check out. There's a circle over there of panda statues. And this is where he could have said, oh, I feel that the spirit world is strong here.
Yeah.
Like, why would he feel it in the village? In the original animation, literally the forest spirit comes crashing in and steals a villager and takes off with them.
That's pretty good evidence, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul. Oh, man.
And so it's kind of important. One of the bears in this teddy bear picnic has 4 claw scratch marks on its face. And I'll complain about that later.
You wouldn't have known to see that, though.
You wouldn't be looking for it, yeah.
What if, like, one of the bears was fashioned to look like Yogi Bear? Yeah, so there's, like, a Yogi Bear statue. And then as they pan, there's Smokey the Bear.
I love it.
There's Pooh Bear. And then finally we get to Kung Fu Panda.
Yes.
That is how ridiculous I want this show to become, just so that I can have fun with it.
So from here on out, that's what we're pretending we've seen in this scene.
All the forest spirits are just all the cartoon bears that we know. Baloo. There's a lot of cartoon bears. I never really thought about it.
Paddington.
I think Baloo is the same bear in Jungle Book, right?
Yes.
And then he was Little John in Robin Hood.
A bear of many hats.
Aang decides, yes, I have to now meditate to get into the spirit world. And I think he's really rude to Katara and Sokka, telling him to shut up. We haven't seen enough moments of them being silly like together for it not to seem like he's just being an asshole to his friends.
Yeah, here's how they could have fixed that. They could have made it so that Aang started the meditation, and then there's a little fade or montage of them sitting around board. Then they do their cute banter talking, and that, after hours of studying, Aang gets annoyed at. But no.
Yeah, you're right. That would have been a much better take on that scene.
Also, I really liked Katara's answer in this bit of banter where Sokka says, so how do we know if he's going to be, if this is working? And Katara's just assuming from the Kyoshi experience where she saw Aang do this, that it'll go the same way. And so the way she said how it works makes sense. But when he says, how do we know it'll work? She should have just said, oh, his tattoos will glow.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, I don't think she was there in that scene
that part?
when he actually... For that part, because she had run off because she saw Zuko.
Okay, that's fair.
So give her a little bit, I guess. I did like that when he asks her what's going to happen. I think she just says, I don't know, which is finally somebody admitting that they don't know something.
Yes.
And he successfully brings himself into the spirit world and brings them along with him. This is kind of where the spirit world stuff, they kind of go off the rails with it, way far away from how they handle it in the animation. Though, now that I've been kind of going back and looking at things, there aren't specific rules per se in the animation. I just think it's revealed to you in a much more succinct and better way in the animation.
Definitely.
Also, I guess, because I haven't seen Korra, there's tons of Spirit World stuff in Korra, so don't be too angry at me if I get Spirit World stuff wrong, other fans, because I have not watched all of Korra's stuff, so I am somewhat ignorant of the deeper lore of the Spirit World.
But also the Spirit World's kind of dream logic anyway, so you make shit up and it's stupid anyway, and shut up.
Yeah. So Team Avatar's just walking and talking in the Spirit World. And then here we start with them bringing all the other spirits from many of the other episodes into it for no reason. So suddenly arrives Wan Shi Tong, the spirit from the episode The Library. They represent the spirit that's the spirit of knowledge. He identifies himself, randomly appears.
Not fully randomly, you're right, it doesn't really belong in this shot. But they're saying, oh, we need to find the people because they don't really belong here. I think Aang said that line after some cute dialogue with Katara. And then it goes, none of you belong here, which I particularly marked down because in less than 45 seconds, it contradicts itself and says, you are the Avatar. You are meant to have one foot in this world.
Because apparently it didn't recognize that he was the Avatar before.
Yeah.
Even though he came here because he's the Avatar.
Exactly.
Anyway, this owl spirit is from a very good episode called The Library, where the owl spirit, Wan Shi Tong, is angry at humanity. He's a very angry spirit because people have stolen things from his library. And the fact that they bring him here as a spirit that is there to assist Aang is the antithesis of what that character actually is. He is completely skeptical of humans and thinks that humans have kind of ruined the world. And so they've changed this character completely, or this spirit world character.
Hashtag Huang Shi Tong was right.
Right. The only thing is that I was super happy seeing the spirit. Again, nostalgia.
It looked awesome.
The brain doesn't care that this character is not supposed to be here. It's like, yay, I'm seeing the character. It also reminds me of the Great Owl from Secret of Nim, which is one of my favorite of all time cartoons. So I think just seeing this owl there made me very happy, even though they fucked it up.
See, we can be fair. We can love stuff even though we think it fucks it up. And pretty much this owl only has like 3 things of value to say. To tell Aang where to go to complete the mission, find the stone hut, stay on the path, which I think that advice lasts for like 1 minute, and that people need to be worried about getting their souls eaten while they're in this realm. That's it.
Yeah, and I'm unsure as to why he had to be there to tell him that. Like, because they get off the trail anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So why did the spirit have to give those warnings when all the things were going to happen? He was going to find the hut, the humans were going to be in danger, his friends, and, you know, they didn't follow the path anyway. So we didn't need to hear this warning.
Nope, cut that out of this. Make the episode much more streamlined.
This is, again, where I'm like, why does this feel so familiar? I'm like, oh, yeah, the other Spirit World episode called The Swamp in season 2 is pretty much this exact same journey that they go on, where Katara sees something from her past, Sokka sees something from his past, and Aang sees a future premonition. And you don't need to bring all that into this, but they do. So we'll go there. They split up because out of the forest runs the scary forest spirit. And I'll give it to this show. They're really nailing the CGI when they do it. This looks very much like the scary forest spirit from the animation, but even creepier because it looks alive.
It looks all right. It doesn't look like a bear in any sense. And the scratches on its face, there are 4 on it and 5 on the bear statue. I forgot what I said earlier, but there's a discrepancy in the scratch, and the scratch is the only thing that's supposed to make them resemble each other. Like, if we're talking about a scratch on your head making you look, I look the same as Harry Potter because I have a scar on my forehead, so I must be him.
Wow, I did not notice that. I mean, I would say that the forest spirit from the animation, that was the enraged spirit, which is this character that we're seeing right now, doesn't look that much like a bear either. But It is identifiable as potentially a panda because of the coloration.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're right. It's more scary. It's more almost reptilian looking.
Yep, it's got like a snake head with no eyes.
So adequately creepy. They break up the party again. We've got everybody in separate spaces. Nobody's hanging out together anymore. The first person that we follow is Sokka. So Sokka is screaming and running away. He gets hit by the spirit.
He has a funny moment right then. He's trying to protect Katara. The monster's coming down on her. And
good.
He says, pick out someone your own size. And then very seriously, which is why the delivery works, he's like, well, I didn't mean me.
He actually didn't mean me. Yeah, that was good. The actor playing Sokka's got the humor down to a T. He does a really good job with it.
And so, yeah, the whole group gets dispersed. And then I don't really understand why, but the creature does like a Godzilla victory beam and like whites out the whole screen.
Because that's part of the original animation, but that's done in the village. He uses his giant beam to like take out pieces of the village when he comes and steals villagers. So I think they're just trying to do these homage shots.
Little fan service bits. Okay.
Fan service bits. Yes, that's the right way to say it. So Sokka is walking around in the forest, lost, and he meets a 3-tailed fox that starts talking to him. So if we were to look at this from what happens in the episode The Swamp, which currently the timeline is taking a lot of these scenes from that episode in season 2 of the animation, he is actually seeing the person that he sees in that original animation. And if you know, you know.
I don't know.
Just saying. If you remember that episode, this is that person, just in a different form.
Okay. Now, do you think that this kitsune is the footprints that he saw earlier? Because remember, he was like jumping at shadows, and it showed there was the trail behind them, and a bunch of weird footprints followed up, and he freaked out.
I do think it's likely that those footsteps were supposed to be this fox. The spirit that is following him is a benevolent spirit of someone we know and love from the cartoon. The scene loses its heart because in season 2, there's a reason that he sees that person, right? Because it's a spirit world episode. And then we move on to Katara's storyline, and same as in the swamp episode, she just sees like what she thinks is the figure of her mother and her mother's voice. And then when she runs up to it, it disappears and she starts crying because she wanted it to obviously be her mother. But in the live action, the spirit world actually takes her into one of her memories. So now they're taking people into their memories. It's very confusing.
I'm feeling like maybe they shouldn't have to show the day her mom dies, that would be better left just something that we imagined. Because it'll always be worse. Kind of like with horror movies. When you see the monster, it's not as bad as when you're thinking about the monster.
Yeah, and you actually don't get this full version of what happened to Katara until season 3 in the animation, the episode Southern Raiders, where that's the one where she goes on a trip with Zuko. And this is where I've talked to you about how I like Zutara. And part of it is because as much as she hates the Fire Nation and Zuko and Katara have this connection of like losing their mother. And so you actually see that whole scene not until the very end. You know the story. Katara's told it many times. The first time she tells it, I thought it was with Aang, is actually with Zuko. In the finale of season 2, when she almost heals him. And I think it's very appropriate that in the animation, they leave all these clues as to why Katara, can still be friends with him. And you don't see it until the very end, because it's not as powerful in this way that you see it. It's just like, oh, here's another bad thing the Fire Nation did, you know?
So in the details, I don't know how much you want to like explore the moment to leading up to the mom bringing her into the hut where the mom dies. But I have a question about that scene, the scene where mom dies. Katara's hiding under a table. She's young again, like super young. And the mom is there with the Fire Nation dude, and he's like, show me where your waterbender is or I'm gonna kill you. And the mom's like, I'm not gonna do shit, you loser. Like, she's not being cooperative. And then in this flashback, which we are saying is a memory, Katara is trying to like waterbend, and she's making the water bubble up, and she's got a couple floaty balls of water. And that in this flashback is what cues the firebender into knowing there's someone in the room, and he starts looking for her. Is the show trying to say that Katara like revealed herself as a kid and is the reason her mom died? Is that what it's trying to say?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, because I think that's stupid as shit.
Got her mother killed by accidentally trying to waterbend to help her mother. And again, I can't stop comparing it, but in the animation, the mom is just like, hide, don't move. Mm-hmm. And she claims to be the last waterbender so that the Fire Nation never comes back for Katara. And her mom sacrifices herself in a different way than she does in this live action, where you're right, where Katara now obviously is going to have tons of guilt about her mom dying. Not that she didn't before, but there's a real different feel to it when you can now blame Katara for it. Whereas in the previous animation, it was like her mother is just protecting her daughter. It doesn't matter if she revealed herself or not. The mom knows that if she doesn't admit to it in this moment, there'll still be years and years and years of the firebenders looking for Katara. Mm-hmm. And in this moment, it's just more of this like reaction, right? To, oh shit, he's going to kill my daughter. I just have to like do it now, you know?
Yeah. And then
it was more contemplative in the animation.
Yeah, it was a deeper tactic in the animation. Yeah. And in this one, it invites you to think of all the mistakes that were being made. For instance, the firebender has his back turned on the mom. She could have knocked him the fuck out, and then they could have walked out of the room. Mm-hmm. Instead, she goes, I am the waterbender. Slow motion attack, burn to death.
gosh. I guess it's just a real struggle I'm having with this show. Let us talk about the other portion of the memory that she lives. Is actually quite sweet.
It is.
So I do enjoy these visions that they show you of what it was like in the Southern Water Tribe before everybody died or left the village.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that they're giving us those glimpses. I just wish it wasn't in these moments that are fraught with like, okay, now I'm in my memories, living in my own memories. Couldn't it have just been a story that was told maybe as they're walking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a time where an oral storytelling situation would have been good about my past,
yes.
you know, as we're walking over the fires, they're eating like something. That scene, you're right. It's not as well done. It's done way too soon. Again, we keep complaining. You know what Katara went through in the animation, not here, because she gets really angry in the animation at the Fire Nation. Like, there's times when she's a fucking badass and she has no shits to give for the Fire Nation. And she's like the last person to forgive Zuko.
Yeah.
Because of this scene. But we need to get there first.
Yeah, there's no journey to this. We're just getting destination, destination, destination.
Yes. And at the end of her memory of seeing her mother die, we get an it scene.
Yep. Creepy jump scare.
Creepy jump scare. Almost kind of looks like the It from Stephen King. But if you've watched the show, you know it's the face stealer. He's arrived
alert.
in her memories. And then they fast cut to Sokka, who is now also experiencing a memory. I can't remember if there's anything in between there.
No, it basically he's walking in the mud, which brings to mind your thing about it being much like the swamp episode. And he's complaining, and then he's suspicious of the mud turning into ice. And then he's face dunked into not a toilet, but into water. And that's his ceremony.
Okay, so here's another episode that we don't get to see. They completely reworked how it was done. This is the episode Bato of the Water Tribe. So there's a moment in the animation where Aang has to leave, but they find Bato, who is left behind by their dad. And so Katara and Sokka stay with him, and Sokka goes on this journey of becoming a man in that episode. And he learns how to be confident and to be a leader in this episode of the animation. And here, they have totally reworked it to do the opposite for Sokka. And it's a memory, so it's not like this is a fake thing that the face stealer is showing him. This is now canon in this particular universe that Sokka's dad was an asshole.
Yep. Clearly an asshole.
And he didn't do well in his journey to become a man. So either they're gonna do this where Sokka later in a season 2 like rides a boat and is able to do it well and I'm a man now. I don't know. But they totally ruined it. It's now like he has no confidence from that moment. It's the opposite.
Yeah, Bato saves him and the dad basically says, well, I guess hiring the right crew is a part of the test. So good job for that, loser. So the memory is basically his dad sends him on the test of manhood, which is making it on a boat through a bunch of rocks, and Sokka barely made it because he had Bato on his crew. Again, they tell us the story of it. Why can't we see Sokka doing that test? Yep. And so the other kids in the town are making fun of him because, oh, if this is how you pass the test, how bad's the ship going to be when you fail it? And so like that doesn't align with the one episode we saw of Sokka being like the leader of the other kids in town. And yeah, it just doesn't really hold up to itself very well.
Agreed. There's not consistency in the past things that they've shown us in the previous episodes of the live action.
And also, I just realized Katara had a genuinely traumatic memory, and Sokka just had like a little bit of shame and embarrassment for not doing a good job, but still passing a test.
I know. It's pretty pathetic. That's why Katara is such like one of the main characters is she has the most to hate about the firebending nation. Because she, as much as Sokka also lost his mom, and he tells that to her later, he didn't witness her immolation.
Yeah.
At the end of his memory, we get the face stealer again. Arrives dragging him under into the sewers to eat him, which is actually not that far from the truth.
Yeah.
So we've got A Secret of Nim, and we've got It from Stephen King. We've got a bunch of bears
All
from
the
different
cartoon
bear
bears.
cartoons. So, we're making lots of good progress and comparisons. And then Aang meets the face stealer, huh?
Yeah, so just before that, it transitions to Aang, and he's walking around as well, and you think he's going to have another, same as the others, a flashback. And so he turns a corner and sees, the air temple and its glory, and he goes, this isn't real, and he just turns and keeps walking. So that was kind of all right. It was cool. And that's when he meets the face sealer. And at this point, when we see the full body of the face sealer, they must have blown 4 episodes worth of budget on creatures, because we saw Momo, we saw Appa. We'll see him twice by the end of this. We saw the monster panda bear guy, and we see the face sealer. Like, that's a lot of CGI they threw into this.
It's true. They're proving me wrong in this episode.
And the mole wolf thing.
Oh, yeah, the sheer shoe is in it.
We haven't gotten to that, but yes.
Yes. Okay. So maybe they left out a bunch in the beginning episode so they could put it all in this episode. Still don't have enough Appa. At least we get his face for like 5 seconds, but we get it.
There should be a meme of you being, is it Oliver Twist going, please, sir, I want more Appa.
Please, can you give me more Appa, sir? I'm so hungry for Appa scenes. I need it. Well, like all my dogs passed away. The only way that I get cute is through, like, Appa is basically my dog, okay? He's like mine. And so the fact that he's not getting screen time is just criminal. Because I love animals. I love all animals. And I love that animal companions were part of this show. And they're not giving the animal companions their due, okay? The face stealer. Yes. So Aang meets him. The face stealer powers in the animation were that if you show emotion, he can steal your face. They don't explain any of that in this, or that he steals the face of his victims. I think you get that in the next episode, but even still, Aang was so cool in the animation in this part. Like, you were like, this is one hero motherfucking kid. Because in the animation, he has completely no emotion. He does such a good job. And anytime the face stealer looks at him, he's able to keep, no matter how scared he is, that emotionless face. And in here, the actor doesn't have to do that because that's not part of the character.
He's like Belle from Twilight, just flat affect.
Yeah. And also just he is scared in this scene, like obviously with his face. So they take kind of a little bit of the power away from the face stealer, why he's so scary, why he's so powerful, by not revealing that he could literally steal your face.
Yeah, he just kind of implies that he does, because he said something along the lines of, I stole the face of a friend of yours once, and then it was someone's face saying like something to him. I forget. It wasn't that memorable.
Right. And the episode that this actually takes place in, where you meet this face stealer, is the Attack of the North or something like that. It's part 2 of that 4-part episode of when the Fire Nation attacks the Northern Water Tribe. And Aang is desperate to find the ocean spirit and the moon spirit. And so he goes into the spirit world and meets Ko there. To find the ocean and moon spirits. And then he gets told by the face stealer that a previous avatar was trying to kill him and had killed his mother, Ko's mother.
Ko is the face stealer, just for the audience who might not know.
Yeah. And Ko ends up stealing the face of the previous avatars, who was a waterbender, his girlfriend or his wife. And so that's who you see when he says, I stole a face of your friend before. And that
Gotcha.
was like the girlfriend of the waterbending avatar.
Okay, cool.
So Aang runs away. Oh, and surprise, there's our little
Stone hut.
cottage.
Yep.
And he runs inside, and who is there?
Well, he attempts to disbelieve because everything he's seen so far has been an illusion. But it's Gyatso!
It's Gyatso! So apparently Gyatso decided to just stay in the spirit world to wait for Aang to show up to talk to him and relieve him of his guilt.
A chill 100 years in a spirit realm with the next door neighbor being a face stealer.
Actually, the face stealer isn't that bad, and Gyatso just like goes drinks tea with him like every day.
Oh, you're going to try and make me show emotion? Maybe humor.
That would be perfect. We get another big info dump about stuff.
Yeah.
He tells Aang who Ko is. He relieves Aang of his guilt for not being there when the Fire Nation attacks.
Yeah, he tells him that you couldn't have stopped it and you would have died anyway, which, because this is not as good as the cartoon, made my brain go into a flight of fancy of, wow, this could be better than Korra and this by being, Aang died, there's no more airbenders, but now there's an earthbender trying to stop the Fire Nation.
Oh, that would have been really cool. It would have been a waterbender.
Water, sorry, yes.
Yes.
Get
Dang
it right,
Water
moron.
Earthbender could be cool. But yeah, what if it transferred into Katara and then Katara was the avatar?
Katavatar.
Katavatar! Oh, man. Well, but we don't get that.
Nope.
So we'll just have to live with the current Aang and this version of Avatar The Last Airbender. I think Gyatso also tells him about Roku.
Mm-hmm. That Roku got the best of the face stealer, yeah.
So in the animation, this episode that I originally thought it was based on, but it's based on 1,000 of them, the Spirit World, right after the Spirit World was the episode that this scene is kind of from, or what they're referring to is called Avatar Roku. And these were really early on in the first season of Avatar The Last Airbender. So this is what I was complaining about so much with the Kyoshi Warrior episode, is that this is the first incidence of Aang meeting an Avatar is when he meets Roku in this next episode coming up, Avatar Roku. Complain, Marcy the Miss Complainer Girl.
But hopefully we're having fun complaining, right?
It was really fun. What I enjoyed about them having so many fucking episodes from the animation in this is that meant I had to go look at them again, because I knew the episodes, like I could see them in my mind, but I'd be like, I gotta make sure I know which one it specifically is. And then I would go down these rabbit holes of being like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh, I've got to watch this YouTube video of the animation and blah, 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 blah. So it really took me a long time to do this, just because I was researching and looking at things and being reminded of stuff. So it's good. It's making me reanalyze that old show and just have an even deeper love for the animation, because of how really well they did every storyline.
Do you know the concept of deconstructed food?
Yes, kind of.
Super briefly, I'm not like an expert or anything, but like a deconstructed burrito would be like a tortilla and then like a pile of beans and a scoop of sour cream and like a little dash of cheese. So this is kind of like a deconstructed Avatar is what you're talking about, is like it takes the elements from all these spirit world things and puts them on a plate together and then makes you do all the research and thinking about it.
You made this food reference the previous episode, and I really like it, where like they're taking bits and pieces of it to make it seem like it's going to be good, but it's only good when it's all together in the right form.
Yeah.
And I really like that analogy. So I'm not sure there's a whole lot else in there other than that Aang stops Gyatso from probably saying that, like, I love you was the last thing that Gyatso, like, just wait one more minute. to listen to what Monkey Gyatso has to say at the end. He's like, can I come back later? And he's like, okay.
Yeah, the look on his face made me think that Gyatso's like, I'm not going to be around much longer, but we'll just say yes.
And so we get another really good voiceover from this actor while Aang realizes he has to save his friends from the face stealer. He, I don't know why, leaves Appa and Momo behind to protect Sokka and Katara's bodies and flies to the temple of Roku on his glider. And as he's flying, they're doing like a bunch of cuts and stuff. And Gyatso's doing this really amazing voiceover. Can't really remember what it was about. I think it was about like how time moves through life. And I mean, it sounded cool. Yeah. I just don't remember what he said.
Everything he said pertained to what was showing on the screen. So it talked about how like it was showing Zuko on a boat and being like, this is, sometimes you're alone, except you're in the company with your own pain. And then, like, it cuts to Azula doing katas with her firebending and says some stuff about loneliness and focus there. And it shows Zhao getting his reinforcements. And, yeah, it was all just like, I'm going to say a thing that relates to everyone, but sound grand and cool.
Yep, it did sound grand and cool. And then they cut. So he's on his way to the temple.
Is the Earth Kingdom border where the Fire Nation is in control that close to Roku's temple? Like just a quick
Roku's
hop?
temple is literally in the Fire Nation.
Yeah, and they're on the Earth Kingdom controlled by Fire Nation, but it said that that village was in the Earth Kingdom territory.
I think it's just that so the Fire Nation created colonies on the Earth Kingdom. That's the portion of the Earth Kingdom that is basically now the colonies of the Fire Nation.
Yes. So how can that be a brief jaunt to Roku's temple? Okay.
Yeah. In the in the animation, he rides the dragon. So he meets Roku's dragon.
Roku's dragon, yeah.
And there's not all this other stuff going on. So Katara and Sokka are not in the spirit world. He's trying to find the forest spirit in that episode. And this like monkey guru is in there who helps him realize that the forest spirit is who he needs to find and he needs to heal the forest spirit. And then Roku's dragon also, I don't remember all the details, shows up, and at the end he takes Roku's dragon in the spirit world to the temple, and the temple, he kind of like hears Roku's voice, I think. And Roku's like, you need to come here and talk to me on the eve of this like winter solstice or something. And so then his spirit gets sucked back to his body, and he's like, I gotta get to Roku's temple. And so the next episode, Aang has to fly through the blockade of ships and get to, I think, the Crescent Island is the name of the location where Roku's temple is.
Okay.
So it's a huge storyline, an episode where he meets Roku.
How are they going to fuck it up next episode?
You'll find out. That's it for Aang and Team Avatar. There's a very short amount of stuff that we can talk about with Zuko, Iroh, and Azula. So let's just go through that really quick. The very beginning of the episode, Zuko is giving, I've decided to call him now Mr. Chops.
Lieutenant G,
the
Mr.
underling.
Chops, yep.
Lieutenant G, Mr. Chops. He is, from the previous episode, we know the guy who's feeding information to Zhao from Zuko's crew. And Zuko comes up to Mr. Chops and is like, you haven't found out any information about anything unusual? And Mr. Chops is like, no. And he's like, there's this one thing. And Zuko's like, what? He's like, well, there was some couple people like messing with ice. And then Zuko dresses him down because he's like, obviously that's our waterbenders, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, so I wrote here that Zuko attributes to idiocy what is actually a conspiracy against him.
Because no one would betray him, right?
Right.
Aw, he's so innocent.
Mr. Chops hates this dressing down. Like, no one's really happy about it, but the look on his face is like, I am taking this punishment because I know it's my duty to Lieutenant Zhao, because I've got this I mean, he doesn't probably have a very high opinion of the prince. What has Zuko done to show, the crew his actual abilities as a commander?
Right.
So like, I think he's like, I'm taking this as a military dressing down, but I hate the idea that I'm being treated as incompetent.
Yes. It is a funny scene, though, like the way the actor who plays Zuko is just like, oh, wait, really? Blah, 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 blah. Like, I really loved how he played that scene.
Yeah, when Chops was like, okay, well, we'll send some men to check out. He's like, no, I guess I have to do it myself.
Like always.
Like always.
And then we get a cut to Azula, who's in a meeting room with her dad, Fire Lord Ozai, and she's kind of like doing like kissing her daddy's bottom and like.
Hey, that's what I named this scene: Azula kissing ass.
Yeah, she really is, and it's quite obvious. I feel like the Azula from the cartoon would have just kind of not tried to simper about it. Mm-hmm. She would have just been like, we need to do this, Dad. And the dad would have been like, yeah, my daughter, like, they make him more conniving with his children than I feel like he was in the cartoon. In the cartoon, Azula was his general, and he respected the things that she told him. And in this scene, she's like definitely walking around issues.
I can offer a counterpoint to that. We're seeing Azula in season 1, and we don't see her in the cartoons until 3, right?
2.
Okay, late 2.
She's the antagonist in 2. Season 2 is where Zuko and Iroh stop trying to fight the Fire Nation.
So I think the counterpoint still stands, as we're seeing her origin story, and they're not doing a good job of it, and she's probably going to be tougher later if they do make a season 2.
I guess that's true, Paul. This is a little younger Azula, I guess.
Getting smacked down.
She suggests to her dad that they should help Zhao find the Avatar because he's the closest admiral. I guess he's not an admiral yet, but commander there.
Yeah, she's throwing all her chips in with Zhao.
Yeah. And she also says that because he's the one that found the Avatar. And then Dad kind of bitch slaps her and says, no, Zuko's the one that found the Avatar and he is showing me tenacity. And he basically calls her a simpering, whining butt kisser.
He says...
And she gets all upset.
Self-serving flattery and coy whispers.
Yes. And then as she walks away, he does this like little smile that is like, I'm pitting my kids against each other because I'm a fucking dick of a dad.
Yep. And she's got the watery eye, like, I can't cry or show weakness, but I am pissed.
Yes.
So all of that, like, I think is so much better dialogue than anything we get from Team Avatar, because there's layers of communication going on, and like she has to act one way, but she feels another. And at first I was super annoyed when she did say Commander Zhao found him, because I thought it was just the bad writing of this show where they're just like glossing over everything that we've seen before. Believe what I say, not your lying eyes. So when he corrects her, he's basically saying like, you can't gaslight me, I'm your boss.
Yeah, that's true. I hold my ground that anytime one of the teenagers or child actors are in a room with an adult, the acting level is elevated. I think it just makes sense that the adults are helping those kids be better at acting. But when you've got a bunch of people that don't know how to act, acting together, there's no good acting to play off of, you know?
Yeah.
So anytime one of them is talking to one of the adults, the acting is a lot better.
It's elevated, yeah. The other thing I really wanted to point out, so in this scene, there's that column of fire just always burning in the background. I know they're firebenders, and that probably gives them some resistance to heat, but they are wearing thick robes and leather, like corsets. Like, how are they not dying there?
That's an interesting point. It's funny to me, well, later you see Zuko using his powers to resist the cold of the northern continent because it's basically icebergs. So does that mean that his temperature is always lower, like his body temperature, so he can resist the heat power? so that when he's in ice, maybe he's even more cold. So that's why I don't know. It's just like, I like that take. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. Would they be hot or would they just be normal?
Yeah.
It'd be funny if Ozai was just really stinky. Like you just constantly see him like sweating bullets and it's just a power move to hang out in that fire throne room.
Anyone who pukes is immediately executed.
They cut again to Zuko, who is now looking for Aang in a random village somewhere and walks into a tavern full of toughs and tries to get information from the tavern keeper by bribing him. And this is another really good scene.
Yes.
I enjoy Iroh's ability to let Zuko do things wrong because he doesn't say anything. He just lets Zuko be the one to talk to the tavern keeper. And then when the tavern keeper won't give him information, he hands Zuko a bag of coins and Zuko tries to bribe the guy. And the guy says like the same thing he had before. And then Iroh and them look at each other. And it's like, I don't think Iroh would have done any better in that situation.
So there's also a little bit of fun interplay where as they're walking up to this bar, you know, they're talking about what they can and can't do. This is the scene where they're saying they're in Earthbender country, Fire Nation territory. And Zuko tells Iroh, like, we can't bring up the Avatar because it's super secret. And so they're talking to the bartender and they're trying to be coy. And they're like, have you seen waterbenders here? And the guy's like, nah, I ain't seen shit. And then when they finally bribe him, he's like, yeah, I ain't seen that, but Mookie over there saw the Avatar.
Yeah, and I listened really carefully in this scene because then all of the tavern patrons start talking about all the things that the Avatar's been doing. And so that's where they mention the pirates from the Waterbending Scroll episode. They mention the Canyon episode, the Great Divide. Yep. So... And then they mentioned the fortune teller episode where he stops the volcano. So it was cute. I like how that they did that. I liked how they incorporated those episodes. We know that they're not going to happen because this is how they mention them. But
they're canonical now. And they're a cute way to show that everyone knows.
Everyone knows, exactly. I'm sad that they're not going to do the fortune teller episode, because that was, again, another one of the Katara and Aang crush episodes where he wants the fortune teller to tell him he's going to be with Katara in the future. Yeah. Zuko and Iroh are walking out of the tavern, and this is where we see June and the Shirshu, the bounty hunter, which is a great little introduction. I really enjoyed her. Again, all the side characters on point. She looks amazing.
She does. And Zuko has at least 3 nasty things to call bounty hunters, or just saying them by what they are, but like with a sneer, like, ugh, mercenaries.
Yeah, this is where we kind of see his naivety a little bit about like mercenaries and honor and how that person doesn't have honor because they take money to find people and blah, 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 blah. And they did flip the script a little bit with June and Iroh. I don't think they had to. So a lot of people were really always annoyed by Iroh having a crush on June in the cartoon. They thought it was gross that he was being creepy. And I always thought it was actually kind of cute that he stumbled his words around her. It wasn't like he was actively hitting on her constantly. It was just like he thought she was cute. And she's one of the adults in the show. Like, she's not a teenager.
Yeah, there's only like 6 adults in the whole damn thing.
Yeah. But they flipped the script where June here says, I guess I'll help you later because your uncle's cute. And he was like, it's so adorable. I always love Iroh. He's so cute. And Iroh convinces Zuko to use June to help him track down the Avatar.
Yeah, and he does it in a sly way where he's like, hey, I've been looking at these Pai Sho players and they don't do the normal tactics, and that's a good thing here.
I love that he always brings Pai Sho back into it.
They did definitely make it look like Iroh and June were like doing something together before that.
Yeah. I talked about the Bado episode. So June is introduced in that episode. And I kind of had forgotten that there's a whole storyline in the animation where Zuko fights them and gets Katara's necklace. That's her mom's necklace. And so he uses that necklace with June as the way to find the Avatar. but that's all not in.
Yeah, they don't have
series.
anything for that. She's just like, so tell me about this avatar.
And then we get another scene with Azula where she's training and beating the shit out of her training master. And May has to pull her off of the guy before she kills him. And again, it's kind of just like a one-note scene where you're perfect at things. Why are you acting like this? And then she's showing that she's upset that she has to prove herself to her dad any way possible.
Yeah, she specifically says perfect is not good enough. And yeah, that feels like the whole point of that scene.
Yeah. Again, that could have all been cut out. I don't think it was needed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, because then the next scenes of them are from
the montage. Well, I almost said gyoza. Gyatsu's talking.
Yeah, the
I might be
montage
hungry.
Yes. Monkey Atsu doing his montage of as Aang is flying to Roku's temple. And then it seems like a really fast cut because I'm like, okay, we're finally getting somewhere.
Yes.
And then it's the end of the episode. So, okay.
And I watched this episode originally, I think about 3 weeks ago now, and I rewatched it today, for catching up on it, but I have not seen what comes next.
Well, yeah, there's only 3 more episodes left. What do you think they're going to do in those 3 episodes, Paul, since you've seen everything?
Well, okay, extrapolating from what we've already said, there's going to be a lot of montages. Aang's going to kill Ozai and become the new Fire Lord. And Appa's going to go start a family somewhere, but we're not going to see that. It'll just be off screen.
Oh, that would be so cute. I find it'd be like the Ent wives in Lord of the Rings, but Appa actually gets to find another Sky Bison lady friend and make Sky Bison babies.
The Ent wives is one of my favorite things about Lord of the Rings. Just the whole lore.
Me too, because you never see them.
You never know.
Because they never come back.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like what we don't see actually is the things that we hold on to the most. Like, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so frustrating to me that they show you all the things that you learn through just experiencing the journey of Team Avatar in the original animation. You didn't need to see Katara's mother die by the hands of a firebender. You can see what it's done to her. That's all you need to know.
The shadows, the consequences, the echoes, these are what really matters. The event happens once, briefly, and that's it.
Do you want to do a little recap of this episode, what you feel about it?
I think all the Azula stuff shouldn't have been in it. I thought that Sokka, once again, got all the best stuff. There was him flirting with the Kitsune, and there was a brief throwaway where he was talking to a Fire Nation soldier, and he's like, how was I supposed to know she was a Fire Nation? Like, he was dating her briefly. Yeah, he gets all of the awesomeness, and everyone else gets left behind, and the Spirit Realm kind of sucks. That's my recap.
Good. I like it. I agree. Now you can see why I've been saying that Sokka's the main character and Zuko's the main character, can't you? Like, that they really aren't showcasing our other characters in a way that makes them engaging, and you want to only see Sokka and only see Zuko.
This is how I know it's fucked up, is that I would rather watch all of the Zuko stuff without any of the Avatar stuff cut between it. Just like follow that thread.
Yeah, isn't that so sad?
Yeah.
This makes me so sad that we don't want to watch Aang. And I love Aang.
What have you done to Marcy, you monsters?
You monsters! Oh, gosh. Okay. So the next episode that we're going to be reviewing is The Mask. Once again, just a reminder that we are going to be doing reviews of Fallout from Amazon Prime after we finish up with ATLA. And again, if you want to reach us, just go to any social media and put in Idle Ride or Idle Ride Podcast, and you'll find me there. I've actually been doing some more video clips, and I have some ready for the upcoming episode, Into the Dark. So those should be fun and up on our social media soon after I drop the episode next week. And we're excited to talk more about ATLA because we're together on this journey. If you love it, I'm sorry that I'm shitting on it so much, but if you are struggling like me, you have a friend in your corner. So I hope you have a great week. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.